General Flynn.
Get fired up!
I mean, there's no enemy that's unbeatable. You don't want to be predictable as to what you're going to do. I mean, there's no this is warfare.
Lock her up. That's right. Lock her up. The advantage in life, in business, and in wartime goes to the competitor that does not flinch and does not broadcast his game plan. I'm here tonight as a determined American who loves our country. And my message to you is very clear. Wake up, America. On this day, we start the beginning of a new American century. A time when we turn our heads forward with persistent and relentless focus on protecting our communities, our families, and our country. With our feet firmly planted on the ground, and by holding individuals accountable for their actions.
Does he have the temperament to be Commander-in-Chief?
Yeah, no doubt. I think the American people are much, much smarter than you know. We should clearly define our enemies, face them head on, and then defeat those that seek to threaten our country and our way of life. If we lose freedom here, there is no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to the Q Lounge Live. Hi, my name is Shady Groove, and this is the In the Matrix channel. It is just after 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. It is Friday night. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for lending your voice to this movement. Thanks for being a part of the Great Awakening. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate so much of this moment right now. We have to understand that we are seeing something that we have literally never seen. Never on the face of planet Earth have we been this close to removing the ancient deep state cabal that controls and runs our very lives. The lies are being decimated day after day by your wonderful, wonderful POTUS, and I hope that you guys are paying attention because, man, this has been something fantastic to watch. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to say real quick, a big shout out to all of the moderators out there in the chat, the guys in blue. All of these guys are here to help you, to bring you the sauce, to point you in the right direction. And we'll be dropping the links to the things we discuss as we go along here in the chat on the video. And I would also like to say that we have never in the history have we been this close. Never in history have we been this close. Yes, other people have tried. Yes, the American Revolution did occur, but we are talking about a worldwide great awakening, everyone. Worldwide. We include all of you. I would like to thank all of you who have been queued over the last couple of weeks from all around the world, holding up your signs and saying your part to come to this movement and to talk to all of us who are here in America, who are working diligently with the president to expose this. Remember, we are attempting to expose them. Once we expose them, they don't have any place to hide. They have absolutely nothing that they could do. So we gather here on the Q Lounge Live. We gather here in circle. We talk about some very difficult things and sometimes some things that are really hard to believe. So I would implore you to listen and be objective and to make your own thoughts and opinions. You are your own boss. You are a sovereign, especially if you're in America. And we are trying to teach you how to regain your power. We're trying to teach you what it means to have lost your power even. And I think that a lot of you are really figuring out now that your voice matters and that you count, and that our country was infiltrated and we have to stand up to get it back. Everyone, we have to do this. This cannot be done by the president. It cannot be done by elected officials. It cannot be done by city councilmen, and it cannot be done by think tanks. It has to be done by you individually, bringing this message to friends and people that you know, and talking honestly about what it is you think, and learning how to red pill people by asking them questions, and use the beautiful Socratic method that we use here. And we also use that on where the Q movement has used that so brilliantly over the last 2.5 years. Can you believe it? It's been 2.5 years since that day in October in late 2017, and we all started to become united again on that day. It set a firestorm amongst people who paid attention to conspiracy to get started and to stand up and to act and to do, not just talk, but do. And that's what we've all been doing. So many of you have been doing, and I am so pleased to be with you all in this movement. Thank you very much. Earlier today, we had Carly and JT came on the Matrix Groove Hour in the Matrix, and me have really been overwhelmed with all the love and support that you guys bring to us. And we love having Carly and JT on Friday. And I would also like to say real quick, thank you to Joe Ray Perkins, who came on the other day, and wanted to thank you guys for all the support. Guess what? She noticed the support that you gave her that came from our channel. How beautiful is that? So let's really, if you're in the state of Oregon, you can vote Joe Ray Perkins for Senate on the ballot, and I think the day is the 19th by the time they're finished up. So wanted to mention that real quick there as well. And just again, I have to thank you guys, not only for the amount of loving and support that you've given this channel, but just also for the idea that you individually value freedom. Guys, freedom. What an interesting word. Maybe I could get some of you to type into the chat here. What is it? What is it that you value so much about freedom? Why do you love freedom so much? I get this question a lot, believe it or not. And people say, Shady, why do you talk so loud about this? Why are you willing to speak up whenever other people don't want to talk? And why are you willing to say things that other people don't want to say? And why are you so adamant about America? And what does it mean? Why are you so passionate? And I'll tell you why. And it's very simple, really. I see there's some people say choice, love, ability to choose, justice. That's good. Yep. You know why I fight? I fight for life. I fight for life. Think about that for a second. How does a guy like me exist under a totalitarian regime? Do I exist? Am I able to shut up? Am I able to be quiet? Am I able to do what I'm told? And the truth is no. I've never been able to do that. I've never been able to listen to someone else tell me what I should do. And that is why I speak for freedom. And at the intro there, you saw the clip from General Flynn, and you saw what he said there at the end. This is the last hope. America is the last chance. You're not going to get another shot. If we don't stand up now, then when? If we don't let them know how we feel now, then when? So for me, on a personal level, freedom is very special. Because the freedom that I enjoy being an American allows me to say what I want to say. I'm not talking about on the platform of YouTube, because they are censoring us all over the place. I'm talking about me, what I can say. I'm allowed to say what I want to say. I'm allowed to say the government is corrupt. I'm allowed to point out what they're doing wrong. Are they able to do that in China? No. No, they're not able to do that in China. Were they able to do that in the Middle Ages? Were they able to practice what they believed without being harassed? Why did your forefathers in America fight so hard? Why did they fight so hard? Because they were fighting for life. Because they knew that they could not live under tyranny. And they knew that they could get the upper hand. And so right now, what you're seeing patriots get the upper hand. And it's very confusing for the cabal to understand exactly what it is that means. They don't understand it. They don't get it at all, as a matter of fact. It makes no sense to them. Because they're all about power and control. That's all they know. Power and control. And the only way that they can wield their power is by lying and manipulating or dividing. And that's what they've been doing to human beings on planet Earth for well over, that we can map, for over 6,000 years. And they do it over and over and over again. And so this time around, it's not going to work. This time around, we've got an informed public around the globe, from sea to shining sea and beyond. That's an insulative blanket, everyone. That's a way that we have insulated ourselves against tyranny. That is what Q was about. That is what Q was meant to do, was to give you the truth and to show you your power. And right now, with everything that's going on in our country, with the lockdown and all this stuff that's happening out there, you're seeing totalitarianism in action. And Q pointed us specifically to it today. Quarantine is when sick people stay at home. Tyranny is when healthy people are forced to. And I don't know where you're at out there, which state you're in, and how the reopening is going, but I will tell you this. Why do you have a business license? Why do you go to the state and ask the state for a license? As an American, do you have to have a license to run a business? Or are you asking for a privilege to participate in a specific system? And have you been hypnotized into believing that no matter what, you have to participate in this system? Contracts are optional, and you do not have to participate if you choose not to. That's a very big deal. And it actually goes into what we're going to talk about here in a minute with General Flynn. But first off, we are going to drop down here. Let's see if we're ready to go. Yeah, looks like we're ready to go. And I'm going to read you this. And I would just like for you to listen. This was an article that was put out a couple of years ago. I can't remember the date, but it's kind of irrelevant because the point of the article is very telling. Unless the mainstream press wake up and make a huge shift in their paradigm, they will be cast to the dustbin of history or folded into our already monstrous bureaucracy as the United States' own version of Pravda, or propaganda. The United States was born out of enlightenment. The founding documents were the philosophical descendants of Cicero, Burke, and others whose writings were studied and expanded by the likes of Jefferson, Madison, and Mason. The founders set up a framework for a government that allowed as much personal freedom as possible while providing the necessary minimal requirements for the federal government. After drafting the skeleton of a national governing body, the framers turned to Madison and Mason to write a set of amendments which protected certain aspects of life, liberty, and property for their citizens. The First Amendment contains provision for freedom of speech, press, assembly, petition, and religion. Each of these freedoms can be summed up collectively as freedom of conscience. Thomas Jefferson trusted the individual citizen even when governments would fail. Therefore, it was vital to protect the people's right to express their opinions. Jefferson also cautioned future generations that the freedom of speech cannot be limited without being lost. And how often today are our youth willing to simply hand over their rights in order to obtain a few privileges? Hence, free speech zones in America? Of the 5 freedoms specified in the First Amendment, press was given the specific decree to the unofficial 4th branch of government and act as a watchdog. It was intended to help keep the government's leaders in check by informing the citizenry of potential abuses and encroachments to liberty. It is no secret that those seeking power seek to control information, usually as their first priority in assuming dominance. Gerard Post, George Washington University's director of political psychology, confirmed that premise when he stated controlling information and controlling dissent are part of what goes into maintaining a totalitarian state. Well, then would our mainstream media hand over their mandate so readily? I believe that this began in the early 1900s when journalism schools were begun and the formal training began at universities. Truly, it was a multifaceted approach by the elites in power in order to get the media on their side. Unfortunately, the media jumped in with both feet without a second thought. At one time, individual newspapers around the country would have beat reporters who went out and collected stories. Very few stories were borrowed or copied. If a newspaper wanted to print a story, dig up dirt on a politician, or expose a situation, newspapers sent their own reporter to do the work. Reporters made names for themselves exposing child labor, slum living, prison conditions, and politicians used to fear the press. Until the progressive movement, progressive politicians like Roosevelt and Wilson courted favor with reporters, editors, and media owners by hosting dinners, press conferences, and exclusive events. This began tendering their hearts, and then came the push to train reporters through schools of higher learning. By discrediting certain reporters as uneducated and untrained, progressives propped up the ivory tower as the only fix to correcting the problems in the media. Schools of journalism began popping up around the country, and eventually the elites were training those sent to keep them accountable. Isn't that like having the children train the nannies? The mainstream media has as it is today is a dying breed. Alternative sources are quickly becoming the go-to place for the newest news seekers, and even though it is hardly balanced, alternative sources rarely claim to be mainstream. Mainstream media claim a non-bias, while at the same time sneaking in snide comments and hidden meanings. People are hungry for truth and will turn to those that don't hide what they really think. And that is why I believe the media have let us down and alternative media is rising to take its place. Unless the mainstream press wake up and make a huge shift in their paradigm, they will be cast to the dustbin of history or folded into our already monstrous bureaucracy as the United States' own version of Pravda. Now, your media is considered the fourth estate. They have a special role in your republic. And I say republic because I don't live in a democracy. I live in a republic. And let's do a little history lesson here. Let's go back to the first rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance and look at this. I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Changed in 1923. I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Changed again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 1954. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to the current version, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That word republic did not go away, did it? That word republic stayed right there as the centerpiece of your Pledge of Allegiance. And then whenever we consider our republic, I pledge allegiance to the republic. I pledge allegiance to the republic. So am I pledging allegiance to the state? Am I pledging allegiance to the state that I live in? Am I pledging allegiance to the federal government? No, no, no. I pledge of allegiance to you, each and every one of you who stands for freedom. That's who I pledge allegiance to. I do not pledge allegiance to a state, and neither do you. We are a republic because we are gathered under one common theme, which is we are free to think and believe and worship the way we wish to. And we're willing to let each and every other individual of us do the exact same. That's freedom. That is what they fear. That is why they have removed teaching the Constitution from schools. That is why they've bastardized the Constitution and twisted what it means and keep running this narrative that, oh, your Constitution is a living document. So let's look at it like this. Do you see today any politician that you could point at that's an elected who you would call a, quote, freedom fighter? There's a couple, but there's not many. Isn't that interesting that the politicians, which if I were a politician, I would be a freedom fighter. I would be fighting for liberty. I would be fighting for you to have more of your freedom. I would be fighting to get government out of your life. But they do the opposite. And all of you that are coming here that see the show, come to the chat, or understand this stuff, I would trust each and every one of you as an elected representative of me. You know why? Because you think about the truth. You may not be right. I don't care if you're not always right. What I care about is that you think about the truth. You think about freedom. You think about liberty. That is that's on your frontal mind. That precedes climate change, precedes pandemics, it precedes all this other garbage. That is who we are. We are a republic, pledging our allegiance to each other and giving each other the freedom and the space to live, work, and worship as you wish without harassment from any state. That is why freedom is important to me. And so the media, who is supposed to be the fourth estate to protect against whatever you want to say, to protect, they're supposed to be protecting us against corruption, but now they're protecting the corruption from us and acting like we are the ones on the wrong side because we're asking for transparency. How does that work? The media's job is not to have, to be standing there and see that, okay, I'm standing by the window, I'm looking out my window, and I'm standing here with Jim, and I look out my window and I say it's raining. And Jim looks out the window and he says the sun is shining. The media's job is not to give Jim and I the same amount of time because we have different opinions about whether or not it's raining outside. The media's job is to say, it's raining. Jim is wrong. That's supposed to be their job. They're supposed to be able to do that. And then they're supposed to rely on their credibility per doing this in the past for us to trust them. But currently, how much trust do you have? How much trust do you have in these people? Any? It's hard to swallow, right? So now they're telling you that you can't open your businesses, you can't go do work, you can't go do anything. They're impeding the freedom of healthy people. This is not about a virus. This is about control of the narrative and an election. And I want you guys to all understand that. And we're going to paint a pretty good picture here tonight regarding all of this. And so first off, I'd like to discuss the Michael Flynn case. And there's a lot of confusion out there about this. There is a tremendous amount of confusion about what happened to Michael Flynn and how it all went down. This article gives a great summary of what happened. And we're going to go through it here real quick. In 2017, Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to making false statements to the FBI concerning conversations he had with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. following President Trump's surprise victory over Hillary. Soon after, the case was transferred to Emmett Sullivan's docket, where it languished for a year while Flynn cooperated with the Mueller office. During that time, the public learned that the Russia collusion tale peddled by Democrats in the media was false, and that the true scandal was that the FBI was targeting the Trump campaign and its flagrant abuse of the FISA or FISC court to spy on the Trump team. Those calling out the Spygate scandal soon recognized the targeting of Flynn played an important role in the scandal. The FBI, then under the leadership of Director James Comey, needed to oust Flynn to prevent him from discovering the plot. Flynn, though, coerced by threats from the special counsel prosecutors to go after his son, remained mum. But after 2 years, $30 million plus, and a report showing no Russia collusion, the special counsel's team disbanded. Flynn fired his Covington and Burling lawyers, remember, who were headed by Eric Holder, and hired Sidney Powell. Over the next 6 months, Powell dissected hordes of documents and sought more. There were missing 302s, interview forms. There were documents related to Flynn and the broader Spygate scandal. Who knows what else? In nearly a 100-page decision, Sullivan denied Powell's motion to compel and her request to dismiss the case against Flynn based on egregious prosecutorial misconduct. He has no standing to do that. Later came multiple motions to withdraw Flynn's guilty plea. In those motions, Flynn proclaimed his innocence and attested that he had pleaded guilty only to protect his son from the special counsel's office. Powell also laid out substantial evidence suggesting that Covington and Burling's lawyers had provided ineffective assistance of counsel and added further evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. While Sullivan ignored the many irregularities in the case, Attorney General Barr did not. Barr appointed an outside U.S. attorney, Jensen, to review the Flynn prosecution, and 3 weeks ago, the first results of Jensen's investigation became public when Powell supplemented her earlier motions with a cache of documents Jensen had provided regarding the Flynn defense team, or provided the Flynn defense team. Those documents established that the FBI had closed out its Russia collusion investigation of Flynn before the agent's late January questioning of Flynn. So there was no investigation into Flynn at this juncture. They were going to close it out. Handwritten notes further exposed that the questioning at best related to a non-existent and legally ridiculous Logan Act investigation and at worst was a perjury trap. Text messages also confirmed that there was an original 302 summary the FBI Lisa Page wordsmithed following the questioning of Flynn. This 302 has still not been produced because they manipulated it multiple times. They cannot show this 302, which they do not have a case if they cannot show this 302. The judge knows this. The judge is not unaware in this situation, is what I'm trying to paint here. With this evidence in hand, surely Sullivan could see that Powell had been saying for a year that Flynn was innocent, and that the special counsel's office had coerced a plea and then withheld exculpatory evidence from his attorneys. But Sullivan said nothing other than to Powell to stop filing the new evidence until Jensen had finished his review. The judge is telling the attorney to stop filing new evidence. How can you do that? While Sullivan stayed on the sidelines, the U.S. Attorney's Office took charge and filed a motion to dismiss the charge against Flynn with prejudice. The filing detailed the numerous problems with the case against Flynn, highlighting statements Flynn had made to the FBI agents that showed he had lied or that he had not lied to the agents, and that the edited 302 misrepresented what he had said. The motion to dismiss further explained how the FBI's questioning of Flynn was illicit and did not serve a proper investigative purpose, and was thus not material. And for all of those reasons, the U.S. Attorney's Office moved to dismiss the charge against General Flynn with prejudice. This is very important. That right there. Surely Sullivan saw the truth now. Powell had been right all along. The Flynn case was the Stevens case, the criminal case against Stevens that Sullivan presided over in 2008 after a jury convicted him on corruption charges. New prosecutors assigned to handle the appeal discovered that trial prosecutors had withheld evidence supporting Stevens' claims of innocence or exculpatory evidence. That's illegal to withhold that. That rules the case null and void in a republic. The federal prosecutors informed the court, and newly confirmed Attorney General Holder moved to dismiss the charges against Stevens with prejudice, which Sullivan did. Now, this happened before in 2008 with Holder. Sullivan did so much more. He unleashed his fury before a packed courtroom for 14 minutes. He scolded, he chastised, and he fumed. In nearly 25 years on the bench, I've never seen anything approaching this mishandling and misconduct that I've seen in this case. Sullivan then appointed an outside attorney to investigate and prosecute such criminal contempt proceedings. That investigation uncovered untold evidence of prosecutorial misconduct, but it was insufficient to support prosecution. And this is the same exact people in the FBI and the DOJ, for that matter, at this point. The parallels between the Stevens case and the Flynn case gave hope that Flynn would see justice and Sullivan would do the right thing. But instead of appointing an outside attorney to investigate prosecutorial misconduct, Sullivan issued a pair of orders this week teeing up an investigation of Barr and Flynn. The judge is going to investigate the attorney general? First order came Tuesday when Sullivan stated he would accept amicus curiae brief or friend of the court brief concerning the government's motion to dismiss the charge against Flynn. And on Wednesday, Sullivan appointed the Honorable John Gleason, who is a Clinton lackey, as amicus curiae to present arguments in opposition to the government's motion to dismiss and to investigate whether Flynn should be held in criminal contempt of court for perjury. And that right there is the part I was trying to get to. This is a court case. For someone to be charged, they have to agree or understand to be charged. It's a contract. You're entering in a contract. When you go to court, you enter a contract. So right now what you're seeing here is the one side of the contract being the state, the other side of the contract being General Flynn. Both of those individuals want out of the contract of their own accord. But here you have a judge stepping in and saying that he's not going to release General Flynn's side of the contract, and he's not going to release the DOJ side of the contract. We're going to bring somebody in to argue with the DOJ about why they can't drop the case. What does that have to do with General Flynn? Nothing. This is tyranny. What you're watching is parliamentary games, things you would see in Europe, things that you see in banana republics. This is not based in law, and there is no precedent for what this judge is doing to General Flynn. None. And as a matter of fact, the Supreme Court ruled last week in a 9-0, including Ginsburg, 9-0, that this cannot be done. Just last week. So with this later order, Sullivan destroyed any possible semblance of impartiality and his reputation. A federal court has no authority over prosecutorial decisions, including whether to prosecute or whether to dismiss. Gleason already declared Wednesday this guy's already out there in the Washington Post, hey Bezos, that the bar DOJ's handling of dismissing the charges against Flynn was politically motivated. How can you prove that? You can't prove that. What was politically motivated was Sullivan's response. Barr had already assigned the case to an outside U.S. attorney for an independent review, and that review uncovered that the federal prosecutors handling the prosecution had withheld material exculpatory evidence in direct violation of Sullivan's orders. Other evidence discovered by Powell showed that, as Flynn had claimed, the prosecutors threatened to target his son. If Flynn didn't plead guilty, additional documents also suggest that rather than inform the court of that side agreement, the federal prosecutors kept it secret so that they did not need to disclose the understanding to other defendants, as is constitutionally required. Sullivan, who presided over Stevens' case, would care about this prosecutorial misconduct, but politics and pride have destroyed that man. The long-respected jurist is now a shriveled shadow of the defender of liberty and the rights of the accused. In trying to destroy Flynn, Sullivan has instead destroyed himself. And the reason he's saying that is because the judge in any case is supposed to be on my side. The state doesn't need a judge on their side. The judge is supposed to be on my side. I'm the defendant. I'm the one who is being encroached upon. I'm the one who's being charged with something. And it's the judge's job to make sure that the state doesn't get out of line with interfering or infringing on my rights. And that's how come cases get thrown out over and over and over again. The judge does not represent the state, except in systems where you are guilty and you have to stand there to prove yourself innocent. In a system where I live, where I am innocent, considered innocent until you can find something against me, then go pound sand. But no, the charade goes on. Keep it up, guys. Because all you're doing is you're exposing yourself. And you all work together in your little cabal of judges and lawyers and bureaucrats and three-letter agencies ranging from FDA to FCC to C_A. What's the difference? What's the difference? And are they all acting exactly the same behind your back, America? I'm here to tell you they are. I'm here to tell you that they're corrupt. And they all need to be thrown out on their heads pronto. And all these people say all these different things. What are we doing? Are we standing up for America? This was the ruling in the United States Supreme Court shortly after the Civil War in Ex parte Milligan 71 U.S. 2 1866, which yet stands to this day. Neither the legislature nor any executive or judicial officer may disregard the provisions of the Constitution in case of emergency. Section 98, therefore, anyone who declares the suspension of constitutionally guaranteed rights to freely travel, peacefully assemble, earn a living, freely worship, and or attempts to enforce, you're going to love this, and or attempts to enforce such suspension within 50 independent sovereign continental United States of America is making war against our Constitution And therefore, we the people, they violate their constitutional oath and thus immediately forfeit their office and authority and their proclamations and may be disregarded with impunity. And that means anyone, even the governor and the president. I smell treason throughout our land. And it's time that we stand. It's time that we stop acting like, oh, things are going to be better tomorrow. And whenever I say stand, I don't mean go out and get crazy or violent. What I mean is go stand up for your rights. Go show a show of presence. Call your representative. Vote. Organize people. Become a councilman. Run for office. Stand up. Get a bullhorn. Go to the street corner and start telling people what's going on in these vaccines. Start telling people what's going on with Michael Flynn. If people, look, people are very confused about what's going on with this man in this case. They're like, I mean, oh, well, how did he do? Have you watched a Democrat in the last 3 days? It's like you put one of those little slimy son of a guns out there and put them on the hook like General Flynn's been on the hook for the last 3 years and destroy their family and see if they're not crying in the media every 3 seconds. But no, they still run and clamor and say, oh, General Flynn's a traitor. Oh, he didn't do this. Oh, no. They're saying it today. On Fox News, they have a guest on every day that comes on there, and whether it's Juan or Marie or whatever her name is, they have 3 or 4 of them that come on there every day, and they lie to you. They say General Flynn lied. Let me tell you, what happened with General Flynn, what we just read right there, if it is true, which it is, that the prosecutors threatened to go after his son if he didn't give them a guilty plea, that is under duress. And there is no contract in America that is valid if one or the other of the 2 parties of that contract are under duress by signing it. That's law. That's not legalese. Law. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1. Q pointed us to this the other day. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace be privileged from arrest. Ooh! They shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. This clause is particularly obsolete or practically obsolete. It applies only to arrests in civil suits, which were still common in this country at the time of the Constitution's adoption. It does not apply to service of process in either civil or criminal, nor does it apply to arrest in criminal cases. The phrase treason, felony, or breach of the peace is interrupted to withdraw all criminal offenses from the operation of privilege. What do you think? I think we need to stand up. We have a job to do, and that job is to save our country. And nobody's going to do it for you. I can't do it. Anons can't do it. Autists can't do it. People in other countries can't do it. You have to. If you're an American, you have to. And let me tell you something. All the people that are from around the world that join our program and come to see us and come to the website and try to get this information, they're depending on you. They're depending on you. They need you. They need you to stand up and set an example so they can follow you. America will not fall. And I promise you that there's enough awake patriots already to win this fight. But do not sit. Do not wait. Do not be passive. Find your power. Find your strength. Your voice matters. Even if it's people in your family, they cannot shut you up. They can ostracize you, and they can not talk to you, but they can't shut you up. freedom has a price. And we're going to go through it here in a little bit. We're going to show you some of the price of freedom. But we're going to jump back into some of this stuff real quick because Q pointed us to some interesting things this week. And we were just discussing Michael Flynn and all the stuff with him. And so I wanted to bring this article in for just a review real quick. And this came out just this past week. Ex-Trump Secretary aide who left in controversy rejoins the Pentagon, Ezra Cohen Watnick. And Q posted about him a couple times. A former intelligence aide to Donald Trump who left the White House and made controversy in 2017 is returning to the administration as a top official at the Defense Department. Cohen, 34, has been named Deputy Assistant Secretary for Counter-Narcotics and Global Threats, according to 3 people with knowledge of the situation. The job doesn't require confirmation by the Senate. A Pentagon spokeswoman, Navy Commander Candace Tresh, said in an email that Cohen is filling that position as of today. Cohen was Senior Director for Intelligence in the early months of the administration under Trump's first National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn. He was pushed out of the White House after clashes with Trump's second National Advisor, H.R. McMaster, including over Afghanistan policy, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. He was also the subject of reports he had helped then House Intelligence Chairman Nunes obtain classified documents revealing that members of the Obama administration had sought the identities of Trump campaign officials. Patriot, coming back to do the real job. You see what's happening? I'd like to introduce you to this man, Sean Henry, President of CrowdStrike Services and CSO. Oh, what an interesting character this person is. If you would like, on my Twitter, maybe get one of the mods to drop it for you, but I have my pinned tweet on my Twitter is my CrowdStrike thread, which goes through and catalogs all the Q posts referencing CrowdStrike and the subsource material that goes along with it, plus some great memes and stuff that you can share and get information from that are accurate. So this president of CrowdStrike, wonder what else Sean Henry used to do. Those that were with us the other day saw this. Director Mueller has named Sean Henry as the Executive Assistant Director of the Criminal Cyber Response and Service Branch. Mr. Henry will succeed Deputy T.J. Harrington. Mr. Henry was most recently served as Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Washington Field Office. In charge of the FBI's Washington Field Office. In charge. Wait a minute. CrowdStrike? In charge. Why is CrowdStrike so interesting? Well, why is the dossier so interesting? How long did they say that the dossier wasn't the underlying evidence in the Mueller investigation? How long did they tell us that? Months and months and months. Years and years. Inside line. And there's tons of this. Same stuff going on with Fusion GPS. Their insiders take these outside jobs. People are trained in the system and then they're put in the private sector to continue their work. Now, the narrative is that Russia hacked the DNC. And they've all said that. Every one of them have said that in public. Russia hacked the DNC. Anons know quite different. Anons understand Seth Rich. Anons know that Seth Rich downloaded that material and sent it to WikiLeaks as a whistleblower. Now, Seth Rich would be considered what I would consider a massively patriotic whistleblower who was attempting to save his republic. But is the media painting him that way? Why? Because the media is like the judge. They're on the wrong damn side. Which means they are not here for liberty. They are here for something else, and it doesn't matter what else it is. It's not liberty, which means it's opposite to liberty, which means it is corrupt. And all these people are corrupt. How do we know they're corrupt? Because they said it in their testimony. Right here, under oath. So maybe you could begin by describing your relationship with the DNC, if you would, and specifically understanding that you were hired by the DNC subsequent to the hacking of the servers during this 2016 election. Could you give us some background on, again, your relationship with them, your professional relationship, the dates, and how long that existed? Yes, sir. I worked for Michael Sussman, who is counsel at Perkins Coie, when I was in the FBI Cyber Division, probably back in the early 2000s. Michael was an attorney at the Computer Crime and Intellectual Property section of the Department of Justice, where I knew him. We had just a professional relationship. I don't have any recollection of ever socializing. But I did see him for lunch a couple of months before he called me for this. It was just to catch up and how are you? And when was that? I would say early 2016. It may have been the winter time, January, February, prior to the call, just telling him I was doing in the private sector. I would occasionally bump into him in the event of the Department of Justice or some like a holiday party, meaning he was still going to the parties. That sort of thing. But we didn't have a social relationship. He contacted me as it relates to this matter April 30th, 2016, and he said that he had a client and that they had seen some unusual activity in their network, and he asked if we were able to help them. I was able to help them with my team. He was aware that we do cybersecurity and we have developed technology that helps identify attacks in environments, and that we also do incident responses services where when we identify or when an attack is identified, we come in and help the organization identify the methodology by which to remediate the network. Can you say gatekeeper? And he described it as unusual activity. Mr. Henry said, that's my characterization. He was concerned that there was something going on. He didn't, I think on April 30th, I don't think he told me that it was the DNC, but it was a client I contacted. If I recall correctly, he sent me an email. I was on a plane. I told him I'd call when I landed. And then when I landed, I did contact him by phone. He may have said it was the DNC then, but he wanted to talk to me and my team about it, about coming to doing an evaluation or an assessment to their network. So he may or may not have described the client as the DNC, but I want to clarify, did he describe it as an unusual activity, or did he say I have a client who's been hacked, or did he give you background on what his comments were? I don't recall what his words were, but the implication to me was he had a client who had been hacked. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but that was the implication. Okay, because they have known that point that they'd been hacked? And if they would have, do you know how they would have known that? So it depends. Would they have known it? It depends on what they may have seen if they saw some type of unusual traffic on the network. I subsequently became aware that they had been contacted previously by the FBI. So I think in looking at the communications that they had with the FBI and then whatever traffic that they saw or unusual activity, it led them to believe that they needed to contact somebody to do a full examination of the environment. Okay, as I recall, the FBI initiated contact with them. Is that your understanding? That's my understanding, yes. And what was conveyed to you as well? By Michael Sussman? Yeah, and do you know anything about the substance of that contact? What information was shared by the FBI with the DNC? I do know after the fact, not before. Sussman talked to me, and it would have been over the course of a couple days from the 30th when he first contacted me and said, I have somebody that I want you, a client that has a problem or an issue. I contacted him, and that night then shared. Had a couple of members, or at least one member from my team, go on the phone with him the next day on May 1st to talk about it. And then he had shared with me some of the substance of the communications between he and or the DNC and the FBI. Look at that. Those are some incoherent responses. They all knew. This was a massive setup. Except the setup we're looking at right here was little. The bigger setup was the plan. And let me tell you right now, we set them all up perfect. We set them all up absolutely perfectly because we got them to tell the truth under oath before any of this started to hit the mainstream. And so here is Mr. Podesta's testimony, and where he's talking about the leaks. And he's denying that he acted as a consultant with his brother's firm. And then here, when did you first learn your personal email account was hacked? Well, the first I was certain that it had happened was hacked on October 7, 2016, when WikiLeaks began to release the email. So he's saying he didn't know it was hacked until WikiLeaks started releasing the emails. He didn't know it was hacked a little bit before, whenever Seth Rich actually took him out of the DNC. So it was then WikiLeaks started releasing them that who made you aware of that? Like, how did you know that it was based on your email account? Because Julian Assange posted that to their website on some place. Like, he doesn't know. How did that happen? Are you aware fully of how he hacked you, or there were reports out there that interrupted him? Well, I don't believe WikiLeaks did hack me, but I assume that's what this inquiry is about. Okay, well, what do you believe? I think the hacks were conducted by the agents of Russian intelligence. Oh, really, Mr. Podesta? What makes you think that? Obviously, I'm not a technical expert. Oh, that's fine. But there's been a lot of forensics done, including the U.S. government, and I think 17 agencies to the intelligence community have included that the Russians were behind the attacks of both my emails and the DNC emails, and on it goes. Do you know how you been made aware of how they conducted the hackings? Do I know how the Russians hacked my email? Yeah. Again, I had no information at the time. Subsequent to that, the people inside our campaign tried to reconstruct what might have happened. And I believe, they tried to reconstruct to figure out where the leaker was. And I believe concluded, although this, again, I didn't do the forensics on this, but our security experts concluded that there was a phishing attempt that occurred using a Google prompt in May of 2016. This guy is unbelievable. I had 2 associates of mine, staff people who worked with me, who had access to the accounts, to my account. One of them asked for one of our security people whether to click through and was told to do so, and the other person actually clicked through. And that's our surmise. I have no certain knowledge of this, but that's our surmise of what happened. Do you think that was just human error, or do you think that there was anything more to those people doing that? Oh, I think you don't have any information that those 2 people were working nefarious reasons. No. Okay. When you learned of the hacking, did you turn the servers or emails over to law enforcement or assist them in discovering details of the hack? That was my Google account, so the servers were on Google. What? Oh, okay. Did you notify law enforcement when you learned of this, when it was made public or it got out there? I didn't notify law enforcement because I assumed they were watching TV since it was on CNN. I'm not going to go any further with that, but I wanted to just give you a little idea of what is in these transcripts that the media can't seem to find, guys. Right there. I mean, open source. In a week, you could have read it. Didn't. Or you did and you're not saying it. How long are you going to take it, Patriots? How long are you going to take the lie? I'm not going to go into this article, but I wanted to bring it up and insert it into the chat in the show, guys, if you would please. But this gives you a nice overview of what the coup looked like. We are looking at a coup in America. Literally, that is what happened. That is the biggest story since the country was founded, because this has never happened in our politics before. Great article here. A coup was attempted against your republic. Are you going to take it? Or are we just going to stand and take it? Or are we going to get loud? We got some issues. This is one of them. Why would Graham shoot down Trump's call for Obama's testimony in the Russian probe? Did Obama sign the order? Did someone else in the government sign a warrant for a counterterrorism investigation into an American citizen? I don't think Joe Biden did that. I don't think Joe Biden did that. Lindsey Graham yesterday, I made a tweet about it, but Lindsey Graham yesterday made a comment that he doesn't trust the World Health Organization, but if they were to do something smart, like make Bill Gates the head or the director of the WHO, he would want to give them double the money we were giving them before. This man said that yesterday. Why? Seeing out there, you guys are getting some weirdness on the vocal. Something going on? Good now? What do you got? I'm looking for the chat. What's going on? It sounds great in my headset. Okay. Matrix says I'm good. 5-5. All right, we're rolling. Graham is a sham. I saw that one. Is it sham or shame? I don't know what's going on with that. Everything looks 5-5 and rolling heavy. So, Lindsey Graham, got some issues. I got a little picture of him here somewhere. Where was it? Oh, yeah, here it is. I like this one. Hey, Mr. Graham. Boy, you sure are having some fun in the Ukraine. There's Yanukovych and No Name. You're going to find out soon. This Burisma thing is getting ready to blow up in the news. And Mr. Graham has got some explaining to do. And I tell you what, we better start seeing some hearings, or there's going to be some serious problems in the near future. So let's pivot out of that for a second. Wanted to get through all of that. Now we got through past Graham. And so we're going to focus on this real quick because this came out this week. And we're going to show this article. Now, this is the Prophecies of Q article by The Atlantic this week. And check this out. I'm just sitting here with it static and look at it. You see it flinching? This is inserted mind control. This is Pravda, propaganda. This is to trigger people to not pay attention to who you are. That you're crazy. Oh, look. You're crazy. You hold on to your Bible. Oh, your Q. Oh, your skull and bones. Oh, your pyramid. But the interesting thing about this article was the witch had some commentary. And I actually meant to have that marked here. I'm going to scroll until I find it. Where was it? Oh, Hillary. When I spoke with Clinton recently about QAnon, she said, I just get under their skin unlike anybody else. If I didn't have Secret Service protection going through my mail, finding weird stuff, tracking the threats against me, which are still very high, I would be worried. She has come to realize that the invented reality in which conspiracy theorists place her is not some bizarre parallel universe, but actually one that shapes our own. Referring to internet trolling operations, Clinton said, quote, "I don't think until relatively recently most people understood how well organized they were and how many different components of their strategy they have put in place." Boom. You think she's not been thinking about you? You think she's not been thinking about the narrative? All of this stuff that we're talking about now, right now, we're referencing deep state stuff that is relevant to a coup. But I implore you, the deep state stuff that you're seeing relevant to this pandemic is part of the coup. It's not any different. So we're going to zip through a few articles here. Actually, first, what I want to do before we change the topic is, and I hope the sound is good. I don't know what was going on there, but everything sounded good to me. Is we are going to play this video, and I think maybe some of you out there have seen this, and it's a long video, but I'm going to play it, and I want you to pay extra attention, guys. I want you to pay extra attention to this. This video was posted, and it was taken down. I copied it, so I actually have the original video that she made. But this is compelling stuff. And this has to do with your rights. It has to do with who we are as a people.
Well, I feel like we got a history lesson today. And since you Patriots are so smart, I'm about ready to give you a medical lesson. So, my name is Yvette Lozano. I practice medicine in Dallas, Texas, and have been doing so for the last 20 years. I am an activist, and that began when Obamacare showed up. The reason I'm here today is because I want you to know the truth about this virus. I am currently treating COVID patients in my office. Let's start just with some simple numbers, and we've heard these numbers, but I want you to think about them. 330 million people in the United States of America. 29 million people in the state of Texas. 2 million people in Dallas. 111 dead. Now, when you see those numbers, it kind of shocks you that we could stop society for 111 deaths. Let me explain how they do it. Here is how it is notified to you. 27,000 positive COVID tests, 3,000 recovered, 111 dead. Well, if 3,000 are recovered from 127,000 positive tests, that's 124,000 that have recovered, right? Because we've only got 111 deaths. The things that I'm going to tell you today are from my personal experience in my office. I don't want to bring statistics from other physicians because there's always someone on the left that wants to contradict me. So these are my experiences, patients that have walked into my office, and here's how they present. These patients present with a fever like the fever that you get with malaria. It comes on at night. They have night sweats. These patients present with cough only elicited with deep breath. So they are short of breath. Their lungs are tight, as though you would notice with an asthmatic attack. But most importantly, these patients present in panic. They are afraid. They are anxious. They're actually afraid to get diagnosed. They have been staying at home for days and not coming into the office. Why is that? Well, that's real simple. When they go to the emergency room, they're turned away. If they have a fever, they're sent home and told to quarantine to save the rest of society. During those many precious days when they're sent away and sent home, they infect their family members. And so a lot of my patients are in groups of families. Okay? This is not just happening in the emergency rooms. This is happening in doctors' clinics. These doctors that are not opening their practice, that are all of a sudden implementing telemedicine. Let me tell you something. From a physician that's been practicing for 29 years, I can't examine you through a computer screen. We can't Facebook or FaceTime for me to see what's wrong with you. I have to provide care in the midst of a pandemic, not to hide in my fancy home with my fancy cars and my family. Okay, now, let's go a little step further. Let's talk about treatment, okay? You would think that I would get some kind of guidance from the American Medical Association, the Texas Medical Association, the Dallas County Medical Association. Well, I was on a live telecast, and here's what I heard from the Texas Medical Association. We need to increase visas to bring in foreign medical doctors to help us take care of COVID patients. Really? Are you kidding me? Now, the things that I tell you are personal experience. I was on that call. Needless to say, that was my last call, right? Okay, so where and how did I learn how to treat COVID patients? Well, I'm going to tell you. I learned it from the President of the United States, Donald Trump. So, when this pandemic started, President Trump was giving daily interviews to the media. And he came across, because you realize as President of the United States, he's dealing with heads of states of other countries. And he came across a treatment protocol that had been successful in France. Yes, one doctor had treated 29 patients and every single patient had survived. And every single patient had improved. And President Trump thought that that was newsworthy. God forbid he shared that with doctors. We didn't receive any advance from the local medical agencies that we all pony up our money to belong to and become members of. So I wrote these things down. I wrote these medications down. And I waited and waited for my COVID patients that just didn't come in. Because you see, they were going to hospitals and emergency rooms, and they were going to employee clinics looking for treatment, and they were being sent home and told to quarantine for 14 days. Don't come out, protect the community. Well, what about them? What about their health? So they started slipping through the cracks and calling me. Are you open? Hell yes. Can I come in? Absolutely. That's what I make the big bucks on. And as they came in, I implemented the only thing that I had heard that had worked in other countries. Countries that had been inflicted with this virus before we even knew its name. And so I wrote a prescription. And I sent them home. And I added a little bit to the protocol that President Trump gave, as I'm a physician, and it's called the practice of medicine. So I gave them a couple of shots. Yes, antibiotic shots in the butt. Not one single one denied them. And guess what I found? To my surprise, the very next day, they were all amazingly better. I was actually surprised. Within 24 hours, the patient was completely symptom-free. And here's the take-home message for all of you. It's called hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine. It costs $13. $13. It's been on the market for 60 years. It is the candy for lupus. It is considered a vitamin for arthritis patients. And for some reason, those bureaucrats that are standing next to our president that think that they know more about medicine than I do are telling me I can't use it. In fact, not only are they telling me I can't use it, in 2 states it's completely illegal to prescribe this, right? Most of my colleagues are afraid to use it because the agencies that they work for have told them that the risk is too high. Liability, it hasn't been FDA approved. Well, FDA can approve you know what on my behind. I have patients at Lozano Medical Clinic that are cured of this disease. I had patients that recovered within 48 hours. In fact, the illness that they had was more caused by the stress and the fear of the propaganda that's being spewed on the news media than by the actual virus. Okay, now I'm going to shock you a little bit more. After my first or second or third script to the pharmacy, which again, readily available, $15 for hydroxychloroquine, $15 for Zithromax, I got a phone call from the pharmacist. He wanted to talk to me. He wanted me to tell him what the diagnosis was for my patient number 1, and what was the diagnosis for patient B and patient C. And I very quickly told him that I did not have to give him that information. Remember HIPAA? Wait a minute, it gets worse. Board has stated that those two prescriptions, starting in early March, will not be dispensed by a pharmacist unless it comes with a diagnosis. Now, I have fought with them, I have yelled at them, I've sent the phone at them, I've called political leaders such as Senator Bob Hall to fight the Pharmacy Board with me. We have made progress, but to no avail. If I do not give a diagnosis, this medication that is life-saving, in my opinion, will not be dispensed by the pharmacist. His hands are tied. Now, it gets even a little worse than that, because I figured out how to get around that. And I'll tell my fellow physicians, you want to prescribe hydroxychloroquine? Patient has hypertension. You want to prescribe hydroxychloroquine? All they want is a diagnosis. How about diabetes? You want to prescribe hydroxychloroquine? Hey, let's do cholesterol, right? There we go. And trust me, I've been on the phone with the Pharmacy Board. I've left messages. So that's how I'm going to do it, because I swore to protect the identity and confidentiality of my patients, and I will continue to do that. Now, I think when we do things that are incorrect, we need to be thrown under the bus. So here's the latest from the medical field, okay? If you have a prescription for hydroxychloroquine, and you happen to want to fill this at Walgreens, and yes, I want Walgreens and their administrators and administrative offices to hear me, they have instructed their pharmacists to give you a friendly call and to let you know that they're more than welcome to come in through the drive-thru. You're not welcome to come into their stores. If you're taking a prescription for hydroxychloroquine, they're going to personally call you and tell you that they want you to come through the driveway. Well, you know what? Maybe later they'll ask you to wear a yellow star on your shirt. So, starting last week, when I discovered that this was renowned upon Walgreens, I've decided and encouraged all of my patients to go elsewhere. Now, here's where I told the pharmacist. I am from the time of AIDS. A general surgeon by training. When we went into the operating room, we didn't have a good test for HIV. So all of us assumed that every single patient on that surgical table was infected with HIV, and we protected ourselves appropriately. I don't believe that we need to discriminate because patients have contacted this virus, which, as was stated, is 98% treatable with no medication. 98% of people recover. For those 2% that are sick, the President of the United States has given us a phenomenal protocol that I'm telling you in my patient population between the ages of 30 and 55 are responding phenomenally. Okay? So here's how we're going to treat our COVID patients. I'm going to treat every patient walking into the office as though he has COVID. And I'm not going to make him feel like he's a leopard or has leprosy. And I'm definitely not going to discriminate with him. I'm going to calm him down. I'm going to reassure him that there's treatment protocols out there. Now my question is, why is the media not doing the same? Why is the media blocking every single post that I make on Facebook in regards to this medication? And where are our politicians that are supposed to be our freedom fighters? I want to hear them yelling it from the mountaintops. And so I am here today to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, to reassure you that it is not dangerous or scary to go to a restaurant, to go get your hair done, to go shopping. Our immune systems are improved through exposure to sunlight, through gathering, because we're in up moods. Reach out to your physicians. Tell them that you're not scared. Tell them to open their doors. Tell them you don't want to see their assistants, you want to see them. And call your politicians. It's time to open Texas.
I think that's a boom. You guys think that's a boom? That's a freedom-loving patriot right there. That is someone who has your best interest at heart. That is someone who is on the wall and who is talking truth to power. And she's speaking up for you. She speaks for you. She's not taking it anymore. Are you going to take it anymore? This right here is an article that I want the mods to drop for you guys, but that lady right there, she was on Laura Ingraham last night. She did like a couple of minute segment on Ingraham, and I had this video queued up from about 6 or 7 days ago. She did this. Then they started taking it down. I think they took her site down, or Facebook, wherever it was posted to, through YouTube. They took the video down. I was actually able to get it copied and have it so I could play it for you guys, because it seemed to me like they were going to get all of them. There was a few of them that were posted. This is a great article about hydroxychloroquine, talking about the history of it, where it comes from, how long they've been working on it. I'm telling you, this is an antidote. This is an antidote for the engineered viruses that they have unleashed on mankind, and they made them into a lab, and they made them out of malaria. Why it acts like an antivirus? That's why it's a virus. It's a weaponized virus. So this is an awesome article to go through, read, get the history, understand a little bit more about it. You guys need to be armed with the truth, and we're here to provide you information that arms you with the truth. So you can hear other people's opinions and other people's literature and other people's facts, so you can discern for yourself. That is exactly what we're trying to present here. No one is telling you anything about what to do, about how to live, about what to take, or anything. We're just showing you the things that the media are censoring, because to us, that is the most important. We find our bearings by the way the media censors us and the president. This is a great article here, a little bit of history. Here is another video, but this link will give you the transcription of what the person here says in the parliament there in Italy. But this person basically said Gates is guilty of crimes against humanity. The most important speech ever done was just delivered in the Italian MP. She calls out the Italian president for teaming up with Bill Gates in a global coup. Here's the quote from the speech. "We, the people, will build the fires of resistance to such an extent it will not be possible to repress all of us. I ask you, leader of parliament, to be our spokesperson who will give advice to the president. Next time you receive a phone call from the philanthropist Bill Gates, forward it directly to the International Criminal Court for Crimes Against Humanity. If you won't do this for us, tell us how we should define you." The friendly lawyer who takes orders from a criminal. Strength. Find your strength. I can't, like I said, talking in their language, but you can see the transcript is here. You can read it. It's a very scathing rebuke of Bill Gates. This is another article, and I think this might have been the one that Q pointed. Yes, this is the one that Q pointed to, talking about the explosion of prescriptions in France. We also just had, I think Matrix might correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's out there, but I think we had India saying that they had 50 million doses of hydroxy ready for us. 50 million. What was the president's plan when he was in India? We knew. We knew what they were going to do. Look at this. CDC's failed coronavirus tests were tainted with coronavirus. Feds confirm. This article is 3 weeks old. It's leading into some very nefarious stuff. We went over this on the show today. September of 2019, they're planning 2 simulation exercises, one covering the deliberate release of the lethal respiratory pathogen, the second coming in September of 2020. How are we going to keep the second one from coming? Get hydroxychloroquine, and you become vaccinated against the fall. But look at this. The United Nations, including the WHO, conduct at least 2 system-wide training and simulation exercises, including one for covering the deliberate release of a lethal respiratory pathogen. Deliberate? I thought it came from Wuhan. From the wet market. Is this deliberate like the simulations on 9/11? What can they do? Remember, they can't create. They can only destroy and divide and lie. They're attacking us. They're directly attacking us. How do I know? Look. Washington governor, this is May 13th, to residents, COVID test deniers will not be allowed to leave home to get groceries. So they're going to implement a whole nation of fake bunk tests that give false positives that freak everybody out, and then they're going to label you a COVID carrier. I implore you to not get tested, please. And also, your phones are getting ready to update with a COVID update. Who saw this coming? We all saw it coming. It's been coming for decades. And now they're trying to implement it in a very precarious, disorderly manner. And it's not working. That's my rant on hydroxy. I could go on for a long time about this, but I think that you get the point. Look into it. Read about it. Talk to your physician about it. We are not immune to freedom. Jumping back, John Brennan suppresses the intel saying that Russia wanted Hillary Clinton to win. They wanted Hillary. Of course they did. They all did. Lying under oath. Here we go. Richard Burr to step down as Senate Intel Committee Chairman. Richard Burr. Boy, this story sure is getting no air. It's a Republican. Why isn't the left attacking him? He was served a warrant. They confiscated his phone. Remember what we said earlier about in cases of a felony and members of sitting Congress? And Q talking about 70% of them are corrupt? You're seeing justice. You just forgot how to look for it. You just forgot what it meant to be loud and what it meant to see transparency. These people, on the day of the briefing that they got inside the Intel committee behind the doors from anyone else being able to see, made massive stock option trades. This guy and 3 or 4 others that we currently know about, including Dianne Feinstein and Loeffler from Georgia. I think she's a new senator, brand new. Oh, we didn't know it was our firms. Oh, yeah, really? Well, hey, Mr. Burr, how did your firm sell every single thing that you had that day? Oh, hey, Miss Loeffler, interesting. It was just your firm because they sold all of your stock in all the different companies, like restaurants and airplanes and things like that. And then you bought stock in teleworking software because you had behind the scenes information. That's insider trading. That is corruption. It's not just willy-nilly. You don't get that privilege. You're serving us. Why do you not come to a microphone and start screaming at the top of your lungs, COVID's coming? No, you call your broker. Hey, man, COVID's coming. Congressman Nancy Pelosi blocking investigation into the Chinese coronavirus origins. Tax money to Wuhan. Blocking. Not investigating, not looking for transparency, blocking. Today they all came out and they said, we believe Biden. You believe Biden. Oh, no one's denied it like Biden. I don't think I've ever seen a denial like Justice Kavanaugh and proof that it didn't happen. But we believed all women a year and a half ago. And we were all shunned on the conservative side of the conversation and attacked because we didn't believe Blasey Ford. And then the guy who testified yesterday about the president, I forgot to bring up an article about this, but a guy who testified yesterday, I can't remember his name, about the president or being fired because he wouldn't go along with hydroxy or the implementation or the study of hydroxychloroquine. He hired the exact same lawyers that Christine Blasey Ford had. The exact same lawyers. Not like the same firm, but the exact same people were there, guys. Are you mad yet? Scroll some 17s in the chat for Shady if you're getting mad. This game is up, man. Your game is up. State Department emails indicate Yovanovitch met with Burisma rep despite her testimony saying to the contrary. 17! Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I love that. I just love it. I love all of you. I love all of you because you love freedom and because you love liberty and because you know that our system isn't perfect, but you want to stand up for it anyway. Because you know if you stand up for it and make your voice heard, we can make it better. But first, we have to identify and drain the swamp. This lady was held up by the whole left as some patriot. What she was doing was running cover for the Burisma cover-up and Hunter Biden. And quid pro Joe. Hello, Lindsay. Hello, Lindsay. And just for the people that might not know, Q dropped us these pictures before, early on. And I think it was early spring of 18 that we got these pictures of this meeting in Ukraine. And there's a huge amount of the Q map that's relevant to Ukraine and what was going on in Ukraine. We haven't even started having those discussions yet. Future Proof's Past is magnanimous with this whole thing. Transcripts. Clinton campaign officials Podesta and Sullivan secretly joined forces with Fusion GPS after election to re-push anti-Trump dossier. John Podesta, in the transcript that I was reading you earlier, they dropped you links to, goes on in there to say that the DNC and the Clinton campaign split the cost of the dossier. He admits it. When he's under oath. Not on Twitter. No, he comes after people on Twitter. Accuses them of stuff. This is your map. In case you did not know, Dennis McDonough, White House Chief of Staff, was part of the unmasking. Biden, part of the unmasking. Samantha Power, part of the unmasking of Flynn. It's getting ready to come out, the unmasking of Donald. I think the next step is going to be the revelation of the unmasking of Donald Trump's children. And then you're going to see all these same people. What we just saw with the 40 or whatever unmaskings that came out, that was just relevant to Flynn. There were hundreds and hundreds of these leaks. Each leak comes with a 10-year prison sentence and a massive fine. This is your map. This is what Q showed us 2+ years ago. There's your no-name, shell companies, Perkins Coy, Fusion GPS, CrowdStrike. This right here is the Q drop, right at the top. It's decoded below with an amazing graphic from, just spectacular graphic from this Anon. Unbelievable work you guys do. Unbelievable. Here's another one. Before we get back into just a little bit of some history stuff, judge says Facebook not immune for role in human trafficking. May 12, 2020. Facebook is trying to claim that, that nothing that goes on their platform they should be held liable for. Well, if you've been allowing back doors for access to people who can buy and sell people, we got a problem. And we know you've been doing it, Facebook. The current state of our republic isn't wonderful. It isn't. It's a mess. Guys, this is a mess. You know that you as an American are tasked with knowing and understanding your form of government. Do you know that the founder said that if you ever lose sight of being able to get true information, that they would take your country away from you? Can you see it now? How long has it been going on? Let's see. Abraham Lincoln established the Secret Service on the day he was shot. Think that's a coincidence? Did you notice how Hillary said if it wasn't for the Secret Service protecting her? Do you remember in the Q post where Q said that Secret Service wasn't protecting the POTUS? Marines protect your president. And the reason that I'm bringing up Abraham Lincoln, you will understand in just a minute. But there's a couple interesting things that bounce around this, and these are some great articles if you want to go read and understand a little bit more of a summation of some of the stuff that happened here around Lincoln. But remember, Lincoln was trying to usurp the central bank. He was trying to mend the country, and he was trying to out the central bankers from being here, and they were hot on his trail and going after him left and right. What do I mean going after him? John Wilkes Booth's brother saved Abraham Lincoln's son's life shortly before Lincoln was assassinated. John Wilkes Booth's brother loved the theater and was actually quite well known. Isn't it interesting how they control those in entertainment? There's another story for you. When Lincoln was almost assassinated 9 months before he was assassinated. And this story goes on to say that Abraham Lincoln would go back and forth to his summer home quite often and without protection because he didn't like them following him around. He liked to be free, wanted to get away from them. And one night he was riding home. I think he may have had someone with him, and someone took a shot at him and took his hat off his head and scared his horses and almost killed him. And then a few months later, they did kill him. This man, John Wilkes Booth. And I'm pretty sure that most of you are red-pilled on the correlations between the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and the assassination of John Kennedy. But one of the interesting things here is, if I can find it. Where was I? Maybe I didn't pull that one up. But as you can see, these people were attempting to execute him before they did it. This man was a deep state plant. Sent to murder the President of the United States. And people in his cabinet allowed it to happen, including the Vice President. They knew it was going down. America started to descend rapidly after this moment. This is the moment the Constitution was rewritten, things were taken out of the Constitution, and it was starting to be untaught in schools for the preparation of right now, which would have been the 2016 election, when they thought they were going to have the whole kit and caboodle. They thought they were going to have it. The whole thing. The reason that I am bringing this to you and telling you how relevant it is, because of this. Execution of the Lincoln conspirators in 1865. Real event. But this wasn't people who conspired to help John Wilkes Booth kill Lincoln. These were people that helped John Wilkes Booth escape. That's all they did. They helped him escape. And they hung him for treason. And so we talk about like treason, and we talk about like all the deep state and all the past things and what they did in the past and what they've done and all this stuff. Let me tell you something. How many times have they tried to kill your president? How many operations have went forward to attempt to take out Donald John Trump in the last 2.5 years since Q started to drop? And before, more than likely lots before, but we've been paying attention. The missile in Hawaii, had the try to set off some sort of nuclear war, had the missile in Washington, had the event in Scotland, the food taster that died. Multiple different times. So do you think that we're smart enough to know all of their Kabbalistic ins and outs of their little schemes and plans that they've been trying to run, and at each turn they get usurped and stopped dead cold in their tracks? So that means every single one that worked to try to murder your president are guilty of treason and should be hanged by the neck until they're pronounced dead. Period. We have a lot of stuff going on inside America. A lot of very unusual stuff going on inside America. For instance, Vanguard America. Does anybody know who Vanguard America is? Here's a little clip.
Ooh. You turn that corner, start stepping, let's go! Ow. Let's go, get up there! Let's go!
I get it, parents.
Hey, fuck you!
This is the organization for the protest that happened in Charlottesville in August of 17. Do those look like American patriots? Or do those look like a mercenary group that has been organized by the counterinsurgency to act racist? What I see right there are not American patriots. They're not standing up for America. They're doing something completely different. Do you remember when Obama made the mandate to put a citizen army together? This is their job. To create division, distraction, disarray, and confusion among the American population. This was Charlottesville. This is the people that they were saying were the Klan. Those people look like Klan to you? They look like young people who were hired off of Craigslist. Vanguard America. George Soros sponsored. Control both sides. So they control the side that's anti-them and the side that's them. We've got multiple proofs that they bust all these people in. They didn't come there organically. Now I can show you something right in the comparison. This is Americans.
I'm just trying to get by on the sidewalk, that's all.
Well, you shouldn't be here, you fake news. You stopped airing the Trump briefings and you keep airing Cuomo briefings. Go home, you fake news. Go home.
You're destroying something in Long Island. You are the enemy of the people.
You are fake news.
You are the
We
enemy.
all know it. You are fake news. We know about your liberal agenda. We know you want to keep your job. We get it. You're not getting advertiser dollars in right now.
You're not going to answer, so you're just going to go live.
Yes, I am getting a paycheck.
I'm very happy, but other people are not getting paychecks, and they're not
why we're
getting.
here.
You used to be a good channel at one time.
You allow people.
I don't know what happened to you.
Don't stop. Stop
Oh, you're a hack.
You're supposed to be unbiased. You're not unbiased. You let so much crap fly on your Facebook page. It's disgusting. You're disgusting. You're the virus.
You're the virus.
Ego neutral. There we go. Fuck you.
Wait, you're within 6 feet.
Yeah. Put me on TV too. My name is Rich. I live in Lake Grove.
Kevin, tell the truth, Kevin. Come on.
Fake news is not essential. 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 Fake news is not essential.
So what we talked about earlier, Kevin. Come on.
That is freedom-loving patriots speaking truth to power and not being afraid to be heard doing it. And we need to do more of that. I need to see millions of people in the streets standing up and saying that they are tired and mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore. You see what's going on? This is what's going on. This person wasn't wearing a mask in New York.
That's too much, man. You still need the mask on. All right, you ain't even get it.
Right now with no
mask. She's not gonna hit the cop. She's not gonna hit the cop. You can't hit the cop. Get off me.
That's an American. That's a fellow sister. Look what they're doing. What do you think is going on here, guys? You think this is a freaking joke? There comes a point where it's not funny. And you're and we're not the water buffalo. Do you want to be a water buffalo? You want the weakest of us to get caught and the rest of us keep moving? It's not our republic. We stand up for her. We stand up for all of them that are being oppressed right now, that are being told they can't go outside. WTF times 10. It's your sister right there. We promised allegiance to her. I don't even know what to say. I thought I might know what to say whenever I played it, but I don't. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. All I know is that we've got a large army of digital soldiers. And let me tell you something else. Somebody else knows it. Thank you to all of my great keyboard warriors. You are better and far more brilliant than anyone on Madison Avenue ad agencies. There's nobody like you. You damn right there's nobody like you. There's never been a force like you on this planet, in this sphere, in this realm. Never, not once, not ever. And they gave us the technology to free ourselves, and they thought they were going to enslave us more with it. But guess what? Now you can take the internet down. Now you can take everything down. I don't care. We've got the information. I'm a walking information port to anybody that wants to walk up to me and ask me a question. They can't take that away from me unless they take my freedom. At what point does my voice interrupt their narrative?
I want to start by asking everyone to please give this short video a chance. I am not trying to persuade anyone's political views, but trying to open our eyes to a common cause. No matter what you stand by politically, no matter what your background, no matter what your social stance, I will always treat you with the same decency and tolerance, because I will always respect our rights to see things differently without losing sight that in the end, we are all God's children. No matter how you decide to structure a society, you will always find yourself amongst those who lead and those who follow. those that engineer a plan, and those that fulfill it. It is a natural movement to ensure a sense of order is maintained, whether you're in a corporation or in an isolated tribe. Just like the generals in our many militaries and the brave men and women whose boots actually touch the ground, the best leaders realize that rank is the only thing that makes them any different. Good generals are well read, but great generals realize what men to assign to what tasks, leading their men through example rather than through words. They realize that the stars on their shoulder would not be possible if it was not for their privates and their staff sergeants. They not only know how to see an individual's strengths, but they know how to utilize them, making their companies function without missing a step. However, unlike the military, when it comes to picking the leader of our country, the Congress, the senators who represent us, the people are given the power, and it is up to us to ensure we pick noble leaders, and that right is never tread upon in any manner. The last 3 years, we have watched Hollywood, the Democrats, and the left-wing media try to take down a fairly elected president, metaphorically spitting in our faces, acting as if they really know what's best for us, and we are just a bunch of slack-jawed yokels with poor deplorable judgment. By ignoring voter fraud, or not even getting out to the ballot box at all, we failed our president last November, which has only created a bigger circus in our government. Congress is doing nothing for the people, spending all of its resources trying to find a crime to impeach a president who has only done a world of good for our country. We have spent those years hearing about all the awful things that Trump was going to do to our country, but not one of those predictions have transpired. One attempt after another to destroy Trump has failed, and the Mockingbird media plays along with the same repeated lies handed out to all of them at 4 a.m. Not only should we be outraged, we should be absolutely frightened at the utter lack of due process. Sadly, not only is there a lack of fair justice available, they are using all these lies to hide their own treasonous crimes, which just makes them even more relentless. I will never be suspicious of the financial records of a billionaire that became a public servant, but I will always be skeptical of those who became millionaires as public servants. With the corruption in our world's governments becoming more apparent, I can see the countries around the world falling into disarray more every day. And if we do not all start fighting soon, we will lose our country to the people hell-bent on destroying it. In the United States, one of the most frightening examples is a bill that has been introduced to the 116th Congress called the H.R. 1111. This has only been introduced because it could not possibly pass Senate at this point. So they have held it until after the elections or in their hopes that Trump will be impeached. This bill gives our country's rights and sovereignty over to the United Nations, an unelected global organization dictating our liberties, rights, and laws. I can't think of anything more unconstitutional. This introduction is endorsed by nearly 40 congressmen, including the Squad, with 100% Democrat sponsorship. This is what we have coming if we do not play our part in this war, and I would take the time to read this yourself as it is public information. It is beyond question, after seeing the recent state elections, that Trump's biggest opponent in the 2020 elections is going to be voter fraud. 2 states voting mainly red lose governorship with 40,000 more last-minute votes than any other of the elections that took place on the same ballot. I have never left boxes unchecked on a ballot, especially in a time where the stakes are so high. I must add that I am not a Republican, but I am a constitutionalist, and I would never take a chance by not voting red with socialism being whispered about on the horizon. The deep state was once presented by the media as a conspiracy, until the day they subtly changed their presentation to it being real, but made up of patriots trying to save our republic. The same republic that they are so desperately trying to dismantle. They think that the people are too stupid to see the wordplay that the mainstream media mimics in unison. We need to see through the manipulation and realize that no matter what color, religion, or political affiliation, that we are all on the same side and seeking the same liberties and freedoms. You often do not realize what you have until it's gone. And in this case, once it's gone, we will have lost any chance of regaining it without war. The only move that the evil world crime syndicate has left is to further divide the people while convincing us that they are the mighty many and we are the feeble minority. They know if we came together, both blue and red, our numbers would be unstoppable because it is true. United we stand, divided we fall.
Say, let's pretend this grain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt? Nope. Well, how about this one? Are you kidding? Well, how about this?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
This is why it is important for us all, at the very least, be loud and consistent about our enforcement of a voter ID. It is equally fair whether you are independent, Democrat, or Republican to know that our elections are being monitored for fraud. I think for the sake of argument, voter ID should be handed out to everyone without out-of-pocket costs to the citizen. I, for one, would have no problem with a few tax dollars being spent for the protection of our most influential right. I used to laugh at the suggestion of one vote being important, but in the last 3 years, I realized how valuable that single vote really is. If we sit at home now, we may literally lose everything down to our religions. We are the silent majority, but from this day on, we can't take the freedoms that we have now for granted. We all have some role that we can play in this war of information, and nothing is less important than the next when it comes to supporting our president and exposing the truth. So by Election Day, there should be no question that we will never surrender our country, and the world will know just how loud the silent can be.
Are we part of the problem or part of the solution? You can't be both. You can't be both. Not anymore. There's a clear line beyond which at some point we will not go. And they are pushing on us. They are pushing on us at every single turn to attempt to break us, to break you. To attempt to make you fold, quit, walk away. What happens if what would happen if Paul Revere wanted to take a nap instead of a midnight ride? Do we sit here today in freedom? What happens if those men who died for your freedoms in the late 1700s lost? Do you understand that you have helped engineer the only free state ever known outside of a monarchical system? And that every other part of the world, citizenry, are literally slaves and cattle. But you're sovereign. But then you go asking for contracts, and then you go submitting to governments, and then you go asking for privileges, and then you willingly relinquish your sovereignty. Here, where did you put it? Is it in my pocket? Let me see if my sovereignty is in my wallet. Your sovereignty isn't given to you. It belongs to you. It belongs to you, given to you by the grace of God. The Constitution stands between you and the people we elect to serve so that they can't use the powers of government to attack us because there's a Constitution in between us. But what's happening now? They are testing to see how much you will take. They want to know, how much will Anons take? How much will you take? Quarantine is when you restrict the movement of sick people. Tyranny is when you restrict the movement of healthy people. You. We did not walk this path for it to end in calamity, ladies and gentlemen. No, 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 no. We walked this path for a much, much different reason. We chose to come here for a different reason. And for whatever you want to call it, I call it freedom. And I'm not fighting for my freedom. That's too selfish. I'm fighting for your freedom. I'm fighting for the people that I am allegiant to's freedom. My republic, my brethren, my brothers and sisters in arms who have united under one grand experiment to create a better country where no man is above me, including a judge. including a doctor, including a lawyer, including a media pundit. Freedom. I want to see freedom in that chat. Freedom. You're not going to take it from me because it does not belong to you. It belongs to me. It belongs to us. Freedom. Freedom is life. And nothing can stop us. Nothing will stop us. Not governments, not institutions, not legalese, not any of it will stop us. Freedom! If someone asks you why you love your president, you say freedom! And I want it, and I want it bad, and I'm not going to sit back and take something else in place of my freedom. No, you're not going to test me. You're not going to vaccinate me. You're not going to contact trace me. Freedom. Where we go, one. We go all. That's not a statement. That's a system to base a foundation of our future upon. Together, forward, united, with the truth armed at our side and our brethren in our company. We march forward to freedom. We didn't have it. You never had it. You got to go get it. You got to get off your butt and you got to stand up and you say, I want it bad. Because I'm telling you, if you don't, you sure as hell aren't going to have it. You sure as hell aren't going to have it. And if you think I'm being over the top or you think I'm being too much, well, I'm telling you right now, you're wrong. It matters. It matters to me, and it matters to your children, and it matters to our children's children, and it matters to the blood of the dead who have stood before you. Freedom. Freedom. I want to thank everyone tonight for coming around for the Q Lounge Live. This is Shady Groove. This is the In the Matrix channel. There are links below the video if you would like to help us. We have a PayPal. We also have a Patreon. Much love to all the people in our Discord who support us every week for a $10 donation a month. You can get access to the Discord and you can come over there and hang out and chill with us. We also have some other links down there of Red Pill Living and some other sponsors, My Patriot Supply, that we would love for your support with. And thank you again so much for showing so much love for Joe Ray Perkins, Oregon candidate for Senate. She's up for election on Tuesday. Don't hesitate. Get out there. Get your vote in if you live in the state of Oregon. You can donate to her anywhere you are. If she makes it past this, she is Q. She wants to bring Q to the Senate. How much fun would that be? I love my Patriots, and I love my country. Freedom. Please feel free to chat and post in the YouTube comments below. If someone asks you a question, if you can help them out, maybe do so. If not, maybe direct them to one of us who can. But we are here to spread the notion that there's a clear line between the truth and the lie. The lie is that they are the global elite. The truth is that you are, because you stand for freedom. You stand for justice. You stand for liberty. You stand for your republic. And no one can stop you except for you. Good night, you beautiful Anons. Everyone out there, much love. Everybody, so much love. So much to do, but so much has been done. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you. for being with us, for standing with us, and for lending your voice to the overarching test of time. Freedom. Good night, everybody. Much love, and we'll see you Monday on the Matrix Groove Hour.
When I pull up out front, you see the biz on bill. When I roll 20 deep, so it's